Hey, welcome back. It's the Lettering Animation Workshop, Part 2. I'm Austin Saylor, and I'm about to do a kickflip because I'm old, my knees hurt, but I'm figuring out how to get back into the rhythm of doing something difficult. I'm going to tie this in a second. Watch this. All right, that was pretty good. So, what the heck does skateboarding have to do with lettering animation? Well, it's hard. And you're not going to land a kickflip the first time you try it. So you're not going to make some ridiculously amazing 1 minute explainer video animation first try, which is why I am here to help you bridge the gap of not knowing anything to making something that's pretty cool. So I'm going to teach you some tricks that are easy to do that you can follow step by step. But I also want to give you, some of the mindset and stuff behind why animations look great and how you can start developing your own style, developing animations that look really cool beyond just like a tutorial. So I'm all about mastery and sorry, I'm out of breath. It took me more than one try on that kickflip. But anyways, yeah, I want to, show you the path towards mastery, sort towards that transformation of I know nothing to I'm making amazing work. But I also want to show you some of those tricks, those hacks to give you that boost at the beginning, because the beginning can be really hard. After Effects is not an easy program to learn, but you only need to learn a few little things. So yeah, last video, if you haven't watched it, by the way, go watch it. It's really great. You need those kind of fundamentals of what After Effects is, the trim paths. We're going to build on that today. So last time we talked about the After Effects UI, so you understand the layout of After Effects. And let's see what else. We've learned about trim paths, learned how to do your first write-on animation and applying that to more than one letter and tiling those out so that it's not just all happening all at once. So your animation is going to look really cool. And this time we're going to do write-ons for variable width lettering. So this could be for a font that you break down in Illustrator. It could be custom hand lettering that's vectorized. But yeah, it's really cool technique. It just builds on the trim paths. We're going to use this matte layer. You're going to learn about masks and mattes as well. But I really want to help you dig into the graph editor. That is literally the secret sauce of After Effects. It's what you have to know. So many people have told me that they didn't learn the graph editor soon enough, and I really want to teach you the fundamentals of how to use it so that you can make really cool stuff. Anyways, let's just dig right in. I'm gonna go cool down and hop on the computer and show you some cool stuff in After Effects. Let's dig right in.
So we're gonna need something to animate. So again, we'll click on this rectangle tool. Let's turn the stroke off. So we can either click on the word stroke and hit the none icon up here, or we can be fancy and hold Alt and click 3 times to toggle through those until we get to none. And the same thing, Alt and click to pull this up, and let's just make it white. And I'm gonna draw a square by holding Shift, and then I'll hit Y to bring up the pan behind tool, but the anchor point goes away. It means you have to click off and back on, and it comes back, and now I'll drag it into the middle, holding Command so it snaps. Let's bring this down to the bottom and call this box. Okay. We're gonna give this a keyframe. You know what? I'm gonna pull this off of the beginning of the timeline by holding Command, Shift, and then right arrow. That moves it 10 frames ahead, which you can see here. 10 frames. Perfect. Let's give this a position keyframe. And I'm gonna jump straight to giving it a position keyframe, not even just pulling up transform, hitting position here. Watch this. Alt P. Boom. I love it. All right, now I'm going to move ahead 20 frames, so Command Shift right arrow twice, and now I'm going to click and drag this box to the right. And of course, this gives us a really dumb animation, but it's moving on the screen, something to work with. So I'm going to select these keyframes and hit F9, easy ease, and that's a lot better. All right, let's pull up one more thing, create one more animation, and we can check out the graph editor. Let's see. Here's a little tip. If you want to line something up in the center, but you don't have to worry about doing this and then aligning the layers because, well, it's not even working. All right, now let's pull. I want to draw one more thing. I'm going to draw a line and I don't want to fill. So we're going to Alt click, 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 Alt click on this. Let's make this stroke. Let's make it darker. Ooh, fun. Okay, 28 pixels, that'll probably be good. You know, if you want to draw something right in the middle and you're kind of guessing, you can turn on title safe here, or keyboard shortcut time, the apostrophe button, apostrophe key. So now I'm going to draw this line just like that. And we want this bar, this line to not look stupid. So we're going to go toggle all the way down into stroke. These are the different properties you can do a lot of stuff with in After Effects. I'm going to change this to round cap. Oh, that's so much better. All right, I'm going to hit apostrophe to take away the title safe box line that just kind of nicely gives you this center line. This already gives me my anchor point right in the middle because that's where I started this. And let's call this one line. Not getting creative with the titles, the layer names. We want to be able to see what they are. And I'll go ahead and give it a different color. Let's make this one purple. Cool. Okay. And this one, I'm going to animate the rotation. So if I hit Alt R, so first if I hit R, it brings up rotation. If I hit Alt R, it gives me the keyframe. That is super handy. And clicking on this box, if you hit U, you'll see the position keyframes pop up because that's what we have used so far. U, used. And I want to animate it over the same amount of time, and I know that that's 20 frames, so I'll go Command Shift, right arrow, and we're going to give this another this rotation over here. We're going to get this to 90 degrees. Oh, perfect. I don't usually accidentally get it right on the money, but that was cool. And maybe we'll start at -90, which will be down here. But if I just type in -90, enter, we've got that. It's rotating. It's not rotating. I don't know why. Oh, maybe I had both keyframes selected. I'm not sure. Now it should rotate. Perfect. All right, but it's also dumb looking, so we're going to give it an easy ease. This should be much better. Whoosh. Cool. Okay, now we can take a look at the graph editor. The first one we're going to look at is the rotation. And if you click this little graph editor icon, that pops you into this fancy thing here. One thing that's nice about the graph editor, let's say you've zoomed way in or something, and you have this property selected. You can hit, let's see, what is it called? Fit all graphs to view. Boom. Now you get to see them all up here, nice, big, and pretty. Let's see, what are we going to talk about? This represents the value of the property at any given point in time. So right now the value of this property is -90. You can see this like just higher than -100 because the value of the rotation is -90 right here. And as we go forward, you see the value going up until we get all the way up to 90 degrees. And you'll notice this curve. This is what we call an S curve. And this means that it's easing in. We've got the easy ease set, and this is easing in. The value change is slow here, and in the middle it's steeper, so the value change is faster, which means it's going to be rotating faster in the middle. And then it's slowing down towards the end. But here's one of the coolest things, and this is why I love the graph editor. You can manually change this. I'm holding shift so that it's kind of locked to that horizontal line. We can push this to an extreme, and can you guess what this is going to do? It's going to rotate really slow, really slow, really slow, really fast, and then really slow at the end. So let's take a look at it. And that gives us a totally different look. There's no right or wrong curves in After Effects. It's only what the curves that you need for the job, for the particular thing the effect you're going for. And maybe you noticed me get out of the graph editor by hitting Shift F3. On a Mac, you might need to hit Function Shift F3. But this is a handy dandy, I hate that word, handy dandy. It's just really convenient to know this keyboard shortcut. Shift F3 gets you into the graph editor and back out. All right. But notice that if I hit Shift F3 while I don't have anything selected, it goes into a blank graph editor. But as soon as I hit, click on one of these properties, it'll show me those keyframes. And same thing with position. And you notice this looks a lot different. This is the next thing we're going to look at. So this right here is the value graph. There are two different views of the graph editor, value graph and speed graph. Speed graph, we get a totally different look. And what this one does is it's telling you the actual speed. The other one is like the value, and you get to see that so this one's showing you the speed, and the other one is showing you the value. Thus the names, they are very well named. So in the value graph, let's change this back. I wish there was a keyboard shortcut to jump between the two. In this value graph, you can tell that there's a lot of speed by the steepness in the curve. And in the speed graph, you can tell it's going fast because the actual speed is way up here at over 1,000 degrees per second rotation. That's how fast it's going at this point. Boom. And then down here, it's like, will that be like 10 degrees per second? You know, just slowly ramping up, then bam, so fast, and then slowing down. Anyways, okay, so that's the essence of what you get in the value graph and the speed graph. Some things, though, you can't edit in the value graph. So the position is one example of that. I can't edit this. I can see what this graph looks like. This is the x-axis, and the green is the y-axis. The y-axis doesn't change, and that's what this box right here represents, is the y graph. So let me click on position again. That's what if you click off of something, just go click on the position or the property or whatever it is you want to see in the graph. So yeah, if you have this position set up and you've got the x value here, whoops, let's click back over here. The x value is changing this thing left to right. The y value would be moving it up and down. You can see how this is modifying the graph editor at the same time. You really just, after you've been messing with this stuff, you really just start to see the matrix. You start to see what's making sense over here. And of course, if you want to edit the position keyframe, we're going to go into the speed graph. And what's really cool here too is that we can change the position, like the path actually itself. So if we have the pen tool selected, convert vertex tool, we can move the path around, make it all sorts of cool stuff. We can have it go up and then down, or something like this, a little more like a roller coaster. And this is really where the power of the graph editor comes into play. Let me turn this line off so it's not confusing. Play this, boom. Maybe it needs to go up the roller coaster slower. So we want maybe a keyframe right here, and we're going to pull this down. Maybe this needs to take longer. See, if I pull the keyframe out this way, as the speed graph is getting smaller, that means the overall speed of this whole thing is going slower. And then as it's going down, it speeds up and then slows down again, because we're going to come to a complete stop at the end. Maybe this needs to be pulled out more like this. Slow up and then fast down. And that, man, the graph editor is so freaking cool. You couldn't do this with just easy ease. It just would not look right. Actually, let's just see what it looks like. Select all those keyframes, hit F9, and watch it. And this is what I'm talking about, seeing the matrix. I could tell before we actually played through this that this is not going to look right here, because I know that the speed graph means that it's going fast and then it's slowing down completely to a complete stop. And we don't want it to come to a complete stop right there. And I'm going to show you another animation principle that you can achieve just using the graph editor. We're going to do anticipation. So instead of this line rotating from the left side to the right side and just going straight over there, we're going to have it anticipate by going the opposite direction for a second. So I'm moving, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 frames ahead. And instead of it going up, we're going to pull it down. Doesn't need to be a ton. Let's see what this looks like. Yeah, it's a bit of a jerky motion. So maybe it needs to happen over a longer period of time. And I'm going to hit Shift F3 or that graph editor button. And let's change this back to the value graph. And we see that it dips down below before it goes up. So you want the anticipation. Sometimes I think it looks nicer to have a smooth, longer anticipation, so we can pull this out a little bit more. And I want to flatten this line out so it's horizontal, but if I grab this and move it, it's going to break the handle. So undo that, and if I hold Alt, it'll actually drag that back. And now they're hooked back together, so if you want to break it again, you can hold the Alt button and it'll break it, hold the Alt button again, and it mends those things so it's unbroken. And here you can actually modify the animation by just moving things inside the graph editor, which is really cool. So we could have it anticipate by dropping way lower, maybe just a little bit like this. So we can experiment. We can pull this Bezier handle in, and what this is going to do is it's going to anticipate slowly and then shoot across, which maybe is what we want. Let's test that out. It all depends on what you're going for, but know that you have all sorts of control inside the graph editor. And we can also, so this is kind of anticipation is almost like a reverse overshoot, which is another great use of animation principles. So let's overshoot this one and have it land back at this position right here. We're gonna have this happen a little faster. So if you either change the value while the playhead's over here, like this, it'll give us a new keyframe, or you can hit G, which usually brings up this pen tool right here, and you can click right here, it adds a new keyframe. You can click and drag this up. So let's just, so I've pushed this so that it overshoots past where it's supposed to be, and now it's going to come back to that 0 position, or the 90-degree position. Let's see what this looks like. Boom. This is already starting to feel very much like something that's mimicking real life. The graph editor is so cool. You have so much control. So you can use the graph editor to do this overshoot and anticipation stuff. Cool. You've learned the graph editor stuff. It's great. It can be tricky, it can be hard, so I want you to dig in and really learn it for yourself. But you get so much control. Anyways, I want to show you now some ways to get some quick results. I'm going to pull up the Flow plugin. So what the Flow plugin does, as you can already see here, I think I can pull this down and see more of that graph editor here. You can change stuff in the graph editor without ever going into the graph editor. So I'm holding Shift to keep these things locked on the horizontals, hit apply, and it applies to the keyframes that you've selected. It's awesome. It also gives you all these presets, anticipation and overshoot, you're just using 2 keyframes. I don't think it's the best way to do it, but you know, it's a quick way to do it. Let's go back to something like this. It's really cool. And the value, I think, in the Flow thing is, let's say we create something that we love. We love this curve right here. Instead of having to go into the graph editor and create that same curve each time, we can save it. Okay, we save with the save button here. Maybe already saved something like it. So let's just go back in here. Yeah, we called this bop. I don't know why, but it bops up and kind of down. Bop, bop. So if we love that, we can save it and use it over and over again, or at least use it as a starting point. It's really handy. Here was another one that I saved, called it Boop. Boop. Anyways, Flow is really cool. I prefer going through and teaching the graph editor first and then showing these plugins, but it helps you, work faster sometimes, and that's really handy. The next plugin that I want to show you is Motion 2. Motion 2, watch this. If I'm dragging this middle slider here, this is going to affect both Bezier handles that I've got selected and so they're both getting more extreme the further closer to 100 that I get. That's as extreme as it can get. And I pull it back and it's just almost linear right there. So this is about where easy ease is, so like the 25 range, and pushing it up into like 75 range makes it much more extreme. You can choose the first one that will affect that first keyframe and just the second one. So you can modify them individually or both together. To me, Motion 2 is a quick way to get something a little better than Easy Ease, but it doesn't give you quite as much flexibility as Flow, but it is faster than Flow at just giving you a nice ease. So they both have their place. Also, one super cool thing about Motion 2, you've seen me do this thing where I draw a shape and then I hit Y and then I click off and then I click back on and then I drag the anchor point and hold command and so many different steps. If I undo, we've got this anchor point here. I want it in the middle. If you click this, you can change the anchor point to the middle. Woohoo! It's so cool. You can easily change the anchor point to any corner, any side, or the middle, and it doesn't mess up your animations. It's awesome. It's so cool. So that's one of the great things about Motion 2 in my opinion. There's one more graph editor plugin that I use a lot, and that is Ease Copy. Where is Ease Copy? Right here. So what Ease Copy does, let's just say we've got another rotating thing. Boop doop doo. Let's say it rotates. We do one of these guys. It overshoots. Boom. And we're back. Let's say we've got this perfectly like we like it. It's great. And then we do another thing where we've got this thing rotating similarly. But we want the same ease values as these. So I can copy, or I can select all of those, hit copy, select the same number of keyframes here, and I can either paste the value, which will give me the exact same values. I'm going to undo. I want the ease. Oh, it's so cool. I love it. Now if we move the timing to be the same, I wasn't trying to line these up exactly, but you can tell that they're moving at the same kind of cadence. All right, so Ease Copy is awesome. Flow is awesome. Motion 2 is awesome. I highly recommend you getting those if you start feeling like you're just cranking through some animations. They are awesome. Now let's dig into some actual lettering animation. First, we need to dig into Illustrator. So we're going to animate this letter M. This is designed by my buddy from down under, Matt Vergatis. One really important thing when you're dealing with writing on letters that are not mono width, you can't just tell this line to draw on perfectly because it's a bunch of shapes. It's not one stroke. So what we're going to do, and this is really crucial, is let me copy these, open a new layer, close all that, paste. Normally, you end up designing and you flatten everything out. Well, this would be really hard to animate on completely flat like this. And you'll see why in a minute. So it's really crucial that you go ahead and break these apart into their own pieces. And something that's easy to forget when you're designing this stuff is that, when you're designing stuff, it doesn't matter what they look like underneath where they overlap. In the end, it doesn't matter to the design itself if that's chunked out like this, or if this has weird pieces, you get what I'm saying. Like, as long as you cover it up, it's right. But if you're animating this and that line draws on first, you're going to see these weird jaggedy spots. Okay, so we've separated everything out. Perfect. And we want to make sure that they're on their own layers. So, you know, if all of these were on one layer, like so, the quick and easy way to separate these onto their own layers is to select the layer, select this little hamburger button, and release to layers sequence. And now they are on their own layer. However, we do need them outside of this one. So we just select all of those, drag them outside of that layer, and we can delete the layer below it. Now we've got 1 through 6. Save this guy. I'm going to show you a little secret real quick. Overboard. This is made by Adam Pluff. You got to go check it out if you're importing stuff from Illustrator into After Effects a lot. It's amazing. If you select all these pieces that you want to go into After Effects, you hit a button and it imports them as shape layers. It's amazing. I'm going to undo because I'm going to show you the way to do it without Overlord, but that thing is just incredible. Okay, so we're going to save this. We've got them all separated onto their own layers. Let's go into After Effects. And in After Effects, you can right click and hit import file, or Command I, or file import I, or you can double click. Yeah. So I'm going to bring in this. This is really important. Change your footage to composition, retain layer sizes. We don't want this to come in as footage. It'll just come in as one image, really. So we're going to say that. We're going to hit open. So now, how do you write on something that isn't a monoline piece? Great question. That's what we're going to cover. So we need to create a new shape layer above the layer that we want to draw on. So by selecting one, that layer right there, and I right click in an empty space and go to new shape layer, it'll place it above that one. Now on this shape layer, we're going to select the pen tool, and let's hit Alt click through here and give it a stroke, make it something easier to see. And 28 pixels might need to be a little wider. We want to be able to cover this whole thing. So I'm going to just create this stroke right over here. And this needs to be a lot bigger, so we'll just drag it out much bigger. And I like to toggle these down, stroke. You know, I don't actually like toggling through all these things. That's why I have Butt Capper, also by Adam Pluff. This one's free, or pay what you want or something. So go get it. It's so awesome. There's a link below. All right, with that selected, clicking this guy right here creates that butt cap, and we're going to do our old trusty trim paths here. So we've got layer selected, add trim paths. And see this, boom, look familiar? Well, it doesn't really help us if it's just like covering it up. All right, let's go ahead and animate this. I'm gonna bring it back. Gosh, this composition is really long. It's like 15 seconds. Hit Command K. I don't want it to be that long. Let's turn this back to 5 seconds. Now we've got a more manageable timeline. I'm gonna move ahead 10 frames, Command Shift right arrow, and click that keyframe and move ahead maybe 10 frames. And I want this to also be 100, so if I change it below 100 and back, it'll give us this new keyframe. Command Shift left arrow to go back because I forgot to make this 0. And now when it writes on, boom. All right. Now let's click this layer, hit U. I know that I want to, this is my matte layer. So I'm going to hit enter and change this to the word matte. And why I'm calling this matte is because we want to change the track matte of the layer below it. We're going to change that to alpha matte. And what that does is it's looking at what is above this that is showing something on screen. Wherever it shows something on screen, it's going to reveal the thing below it. I think we should go ahead and move these guys out of the way because we're only writing one thing on at a time here. Cool. So this is looking pretty good. But one thing I like to do is give this some easing. So we're going to hit F9 and go out here and hit N. That brings in the work area. B is the beginning of the work area. So if you hit B on the other side of here, it'll move the work area. Move it back here, hit B for beginning, and hit N for end. It's a little different than Premiere if you're used to that. That's like I and O, in and out. B and N is just different in After Effects. Got to deal with it. Okay, so this is our matte layer, and it's writing this on. I like to make sure shape, we're going to dig into the path here. I like when the path, just like the very beginning of it, we're right here at the first inkling of this thing showing. I like it to just barely draw on, just a little bit like that. Then it goes up. But now you see I messed up the path. So it needs to go out here. Cool. Might even need to go a little longer. Yeah. So as long as you've got this thing kind of going up the middle of that stroke and you've got it wide enough, it'll cover the whole thing. Now we can dig into the graph editor and make this like really smooth. Maybe we want it to like come in slow and then end up going faster right here. Like kind of like a brush stroke, starting slow and fat and then kind of flicking it at the end. And then we can just go ahead. I like to change the matte color to cyan. That's just my habit, so that I know at a glance that anything with this cyan color is going to be a matte layer for the layer above it. So we're going to do this again. We're going to repeat this. Click 2, create new shape layer. Let me zoom back out. We need to bring this letter in and make sure, see if we have this selected and we start trying to draw, we're going to create a mask for this shape, which is not at all what we want right now. We're going to make sure this is selected, hit enter, and go ahead and label this matte. Make it cyan. I did sandstone cyan. Okay, now we need to draw. So I'm hitting G to bring up the pen tool. And notice that I'm making sure that I'm drawing this on further away at the beginning and like kind of right here at the end right here. I don't go over because I want to have control. Let's go ahead and make this right here. I want this to finish right at the edge so that if it's easing really smoothly at the end, it just goes right to the end right there. But the reason I start this further back is why I told you just before. Toggle this down. Let's get our trim paths going so that I can show you this. When it's at the beginning, the first, even at 1%, it's showing this whole big circle. So I want this path to just barely be right there. Let's go ahead and maybe we'll do another 10 frame animation where it draws on like that. Boom. Now we'll change this number 2 thing to alpha matte as well. But I think we're going to want to not have these overlap so much, but rather start right at the end. So it's going like this. Yep. We'll go ahead and give this some easing. And this is another one of those things where the graph editor comes in real handy, where you can start to match the speed of things. So we know right here, we can see that it's going fast at the end. So maybe we want to have this doing the animation out fast as well, and then we'll have it easing in at the end. So it feels like one big kind of whoosh. That's pretty cool. And then we can start like duplicating, because I know that I want this upstroke here. Take the first matte layer, duplicate it, and I'll drag it down. Or if I don't want to drag it down, I know I just need to move it down a few. After Effects has this super cool thing where if you hit Command and left bracket, left and right bracket, move the selected layer up and down, which is super handy. Command up and down just moves the selection up and down, like selects the next layer and the previous layer. So now that we've got this matte layer here, you don't see it. You kind of see a bit of it, but you can't just grab it and move it. So let's turn the layer on. We can grab that anchor point, move it over here, and then we need to change the path of it. So we're going to toggle down till we get to the path. and move this up like so. Change the path. And now we can drag this into where the keyframe is if we want. Hit U to bring up the keyframe. Drag that over. We can see that this path isn't quite right at the edge. So do that. Boom. And once again, we'll change the track matte of the layer below that we want it to show to alpha matte. Check this out. Boom, boom, boom. Now I'm going to apply this to all these strokes and do a little fast forwarding. All right, we let that bake in the oven for about 15 minutes, and now we've got ourselves a little M cookie here, fresh out of the oven. I think it's quite nice. We've used the graph editor to make these things custom for each one. This guy right here is a little longer at the end so that it can kind of animate out a little smoother. Boom, slow down. It's a dramatic finish. Boom. Anyways, I'm pretty excited about this one. I think it looks nice. And this is very approachable beginner technique. I think it's a great way to get started doing some write-on letter stuff. In the next video, I'm going to be showing you how to use the puppet pen tool to do something like this. We're going to create puppet pins, and with that we can make this thing bounce and stretch and all sorts of goodness. But I'm going to leave that for the next video. Thanks for watching. All right, we covered a huge amount of ground in that video. I really love showing those things. The graph editor, the essential plugins, they're awesome, and I think they're going to help you a ton. But it's not going to help you if you don't do anything. So you've got to open up After Effects yourself. Scroll down, download the After Effects file, and practice. You got to lay those keyframes yourself. They're not going to lay themselves. So do it and get better and practice. And I'm going to tie this skateboarding thing back in here too. I wanted to show you some misses. I was trying a more difficult trick. What is it? A fakie frontside heel flip. It took me a bunch of tries. I've also skated for a long time, but I'm just now picking it back up. It's one of those like experiments. Can I get back into skateboarding? And yes, I can. So if I can get back into skateboarding as a 34-year-old, maybe you can pick up lettering animation as a hobby, a skill, or a career.
Kind of got it.
Yeah.
Then I landed it, and it was okay. So I'm stoked I landed it, and I want you to be stoked when you start making some cool lettering animation. So make sure you join the Facebook group and post your homework in there. I want to see it. I'll even be giving some critique on some of those pieces. So if you haven't joined yet, scroll down, find the Facebook group, join, post your homework, and I'll see you in there. Oh yeah, in the next video, I'm going to show you a really cool technique called the bouncy ride-on. This thing is advanced, but I think you can handle it. You're getting there. So anyways, stay tuned. See you in the next video, and I'll see you in the Facebook group.